Everybody, impromptu stream session today. Trying to get a little bit of work in before I go to my full-time job. For those that are new to the station, I'm trying to build a commercial consumer product while also balancing a full-time job. And so today we're gonna hop right into it. We're gonna work on trying to get the programming process into Docker. On the last episode, I talked about how I wanted to automate to make this quick and as error-free as possible. The whole process for programming the hardware and getting it associated with customers. And so what I would love to do, I'm a huge fan of Docker because it creates such a cross-platform compatibility. Like all you have to do is have Docker installed on the machine and you just pull the image, run it with the command that you specify, and everything should work. You don't have any dependency nightmares. You don't have to worry about things being out of sync. So I'm a big fan of it personally, and so I want to get the process that I use for programming these into Docker. And so we're going to be working on that today. I don't know how far we'll make it. I do have to get to my job here soon, so we'll see how far we get. Before we get started, I do want to address a question that somebody had in the Discord, just to clarify, and that is around this person noticed I have to associate. I have to do some amount of association of a device to a customer before I ship it out. And that's why I talked about in the last episode the two-part process of like getting the firmware onto the device and then like associating the device on the back end with a customer before putting it in a box and shipping it to them. And pointed out that that's prone to error and shouldn't need to be that way. It should just be that you send it out and that's taken care of on the consumer side. And I 100% agree. It really just came down to time. So ultimately, I would love for this to be handled in the setup app on the phone. So you use this to connect your device to Wi-Fi. In that, I will add at some point that association step of like, here's the serial number of the device, and you'll just select your team and stuff from there. Right now, you select your team. Let me just show it really quick. I know we don't really have time for this, but we're going to do it anyway. If I can press the right keys. Let's grab this over here. Okay, so you come to the site, and there's our beautiful puck holder. And we'll just click on it. And you'll come over here, and you see right now you have to select a team. So we'll say, like, I can't even like select not my team just for example's sake. That's how diehard I am. So Washington Capitals, and then you'll add it to the cart and you'll go through checkout and all that stuff. And so this step eventually will go away and you'll just add a puck holder to your cart. And then when you get it as part of the setup process, you'll select your team. The other thing that I have to do right now that I don't love is setting the time zone. And so because if you look at the existing puck, it's a little out of date. I don't know how well. At the very bottom there, it says the next game is Sunday versus Boston, and it gives a time, 3 p.m. Well, that 3 p.m. obviously can't just be Eastern time. It should be the time that your device is in. So if I'm in Mountain Time, that's 3 p.m. If you're on the East Coast, that's 5 p.m. And the device needs to do that dynamically. And to do that, you have to know what time zone you're in. And so right now, I'm doing a little bit of trickery on using which again, we're supposed to be Dockering, but I want to talk about this as well because it's all part of the process and people have found the process interesting. Need a way to set that time zone. And so those are things that happen on the association side right now before we ship, which I want to move post-shipping and have the customer handle so that I can literally just put these things in boxes without having to do anything except program the firmware on them and then ship them out to customers. So, Rogue Security, hey, thanks for joining. I'm covering the thing that you asked about. So anyway, you were exactly right. I do want to move this stuff to the customer side. It just came down to time. Launching this in like 2 weeks, and so I'm just fresh out of time. I've still got a whole bunch of things I need to get done beforehand, so we'll get there though. The other thing I want to touch on briefly before we actually get into the technical stuff today is staying true to your values as a company. And it turns out it's actually really difficult because of how everybody else's values are different. And I want to show you what I mean by that. So here's our website, and I want to scroll down here to our privacy policy. Now, a lot of times privacy policies, wall of text, like go look at Google's privacy policy or Facebook's privacy policy. It's a disaster. And so we decided that this is what we wanted our privacy policy to be. We will never sell your information, period. We collect only the minimum amount of data needed to process a purchase. We will not sell, release, or share your personal information with anyone except where required by law. That last part being, if the FBI shows up here in America and says you need to release the thing, like there's not a whole lot we can do. We do need to follow the local laws of the country we live in. So anyway, that was a conscious decision. Like, I hate that all big companies track you everywhere on the internet and sell your information to everybody else on the internet. I don't like that. As soon as Google released the ability to export the data that they've collected on you, people started looking at that. It's in some cases like terabytes of data that Google is collecting on you, like your movement, every picture you've ever taken, video, text messages, like things that you didn't a lot of times say, oh, I'm pretty sure Google's, like things that people weren't even expecting. So anyway, we don't want to do that. But like I said just a minute ago, I need the time zone that you're in to properly show the next game time on the display. And so as I was looking through this, how am I going to do that? Well, I could just look and see where it shipped from and guess, which is what I did with pucks, actually. I would just see, oh, this person's in Florida. They're on the Eastern time zone. Well, to make something that's a little bit more scalable and error-free, I wanted to automate that process. And so I started looking into, well, how can I do that? What APIs exist? And I found that Google, among other people, has an API for getting a time zone from a geolocation. And there's actually two APIs involved. You can you can give an address to Google, and they'll give you a geolocation, and then you can take that geolocation, feed it into another Google API, and it will give you back the time zone, like exactly. And this gets weird when you're on like the border areas of time zones. You might live in a town where the time zone cuts right through the middle, so I can't just say, oh, you're in that town. I don't know which side you're on. Like, I need to know really which time zone you're in. And that's another thing that I could push over to the consumer side for them to figure out, like, select your team, now select your time zone. And so as I was going through this and automating it, I realized, because what I was doing was taking the address that's on the order and sending it into the Google API. And I realized as I was doing that, shoot, like that's a violation of my own privacy policy. Like, I'm sharing the address with Google that they probably don't realize. And so you've got two options at that point: modify the privacy policy or figure out another way. And for now, I figured out another way, which is I take the address that was given on the order and cut everything out of it except for the city. And so all I'm sending to Google is the city and country that was on the order. Now, that does create that scenario I was just talking about where, like, if you're on the edge of a time zone, I could get it wrong. And Google, I'm not sure. I haven't tested those edge cases, but I'm assuming Google will return something, and it could be a geolocation that resolves to the wrong time zone. But that's a trade-off that I am willing to make to satisfy the privacy policy. And I think customers would understand that if they said, hey, my game's off by an hour, because that worst case scenario, you're an hour one way or the other on that game time. Hey, it's off. Reach out and I'll say, oh, no problem. I can fix that in 2 seconds on the back end. It's not a big deal. And I think educating and saying, hey, the reason that's off is because I didn't want to give Google your entire address. And I think people would understand. I think most people, if you said, I chose not to give Google your full street level address and tried as best I could to guess your time zone, as a customer myself, I would say, I prefer that. Thank you. Now just correct the time zone versus, well, I don't care. You got it wrong, and you should give them all my personal information so you can get it right. I don't believe most people would choose that route. So anyway, just a little bit of like the small decisions that you're making as you're going through a process like this of like having a privacy policy and then realizing, I need to stick to that privacy policy. So anyway, I got sidetracked. 10 minutes is gone. Sorry, but I wanted to include that side information. So let's see if we can get this thing working in Docker. So which project am I in here? This is the actual firmware code. Okay. And I moved all this over because I'm going to, from here, create a Docker file. So this was the script I was working on. I did figure out some things from the last stream where I was, if you remember, the FTX prog will prompt sometimes, like, do you want to, like, save? And with a script, you can't have that. And so one of the solutions I found, and I learned about this new Linux, just like the command line tools that exist in Linux are just incredible. And they've thought of everything. And it's so composable. I love it. But there's a yes command line utility. And all it does, like, you can run it. Let's watch this. This is crazy. If I do yes, it just pounds just over and over and over with Y. And I believe you can specify, like, if you want it to be no, for example, I think you just do yes, N, and it will, like, yeah, it'll pound it with N. Or if you want to do, if you need, like, the full yes, like, you can do that. And all it does is just infinitely spam your console with whatever you pass it, just the letter Y by default. And what you can do is then pipe that in. This is the pipe operator. You're piping that into FTX prog. And what that will do is whenever FTX prog needs to read line from standard in, which is what you would be doing when you type on the keyboard, like yes, no, whatever, it'll just pull it from the standard out of this. So you're piping standard out of yes into standard in of, and I'm sure some people are saying it should be stood in and stood out, whatever. The console, whatever you call it, you know what I mean. You're piping the output of yes to the input of this program. And so when it gets to that prompt to say yes or no, and we know in this case we want to say yes, there's other options here. You can do like a script to printf different responses. So if, like, for example, you would use yes if the answer is always the same. But if you have, like, one prompt I want to say yes to and one I want to say no to and one I need to enter my name, like, you can write a little script that prints those things out line by line and pipe that into. So that was a really cool thing I wasn't aware of and learned. So yes piped into FTX prog solves our issue of it pausing when run as a script. So so we've got that, and then again, I'm brushing up on my bash script skills because I'm not a bash script expert. But here you've got, if you wrap in the $parens here, the FTX prog dump, and then grep. If you remember, this is from last stream. If we grep EC on all the on all the things that we're expecting to be set, it returns a number, and then since it's wrapped in the $sign parens, it just stores that in a variable, like count in this case. And so then I just say if count is equal to 6, because it will only be equal to 6 if all of those things match, which means we've successfully programmed the FTDI chip. Then echo FTDI programmed successfully, else FTDI programming failed, and then I'm just going to exit for now to figure out maybe what went wrong. So that is the FTDI portion of this. Remember, there's two things. We have to program the FTDI chip, and then we need to program our firmware. And all I did for that was take the ESP32 command that if we do, for example, we just build, you'll see down here it gives you run ESP32, and then it gives you the entire command that you can run. And as part of that, it gives you addresses, and the addresses in each of these I think I covered in the last stream, are dependent on what your partition table looks like. And so it could change. So what I did was I pulled those out into variables. So I've got like the port, the baud rate, and then the location of all of these. I put bootloader address, partition table address, OTA initial address, app address, and storage address for the spiffs partition. And I just hoisted those up here to the top so that if I change my partition table, it's just to, change the values up here, and the command down here should stay the same. So, and I believe that's everything. Let me just think about that for a second. Like if I program the FTDI chip and then I program the firmware, like that's everything on the programming side. And then again, the association side is separate. And so all we need to do is get this to run within a Docker container. Now, one problem we may run into is I found that when I run ftx prog, let's actually try it really quick. When I run ftx prog, it puts the device in a state that then the program fails, because it's like, hey, I don't know, I couldn't find the thing that you wanted me to program. So like, I mean, let's just uncomment all this, save it, and then let's run it. Plug in my device, and then we'll do, oh, I ran into something else actually, and I got to figure out how we want to do this. So if you remember, I was running everything as sudo last time because ftx prog has to be run as sudo, and I was running the whole script as sudo so that I would only have to enter my password once. The problem that creates is that ESP tool.py doesn't, when you, and in fact, I'll do that first. When you do this export dev ESP ID, what? IDF. What am I missing? Oh, not export. Source dev / ESP IDF. When you do this to like get IDF into your thing, so now that I can run idf.py, I don't know, help, I think is a command, that puts it in your user area. So like if I do sudo idf.py and put in my password, you're going to see idf.py command not found. So when I run the whole script as sudo, the ftx prog command works, but then the ESP tool command does not. And I might be able to sudo source. I don't know. And I don't actually think this will matter once I'm in the Docker container, because you're always as root. I mean, you can set it up so that you're running as root, and that's a fine practice to do within the Docker container, assuming you do some other things. But so I think what I can do is something like this. And then it's still going to prompt me for my password, but that's okay for now, for testing purposes. So it'll run that as sudo, but it's going to run ESP tool as regular. So let's do this. Inappropriate permissions on device. Okay, so, and I got that twice. So is it really like pipe yes into sudo this? And then sudo here as well. Let's try that. FTDI programming failed. So it ran once here. No change. Okay. And then I'm not sure why. I'm not sure why it's saying 6 not found. Did I change this to be something that's not supposed to be? Tri-state, power enable, BCD charger. $500, yep. Enabled true. It is saying, like, I'm wondering what this open bracket is. Yep, device is definitely connected. It's saying that the 6 is not found. I'm not sure why. Let's take this whole command. And just try to run it straight. Let's see what we get. Yeah, I get a 6. Okay, so that is working. Wait a minute. This... Let's do this. This is where my bash scriptiness is a problem. Well, see, I don't know if it'll be a string or not. Anyway, let's just try this. And we'll... Might just be a problem with the syntax. Yeah. Okay. I feel like this worked before. So... Ugh. Yeah, it is related to comparison. Bash... Shell equality operators. String equality. Unquoted variable substitution. So let's try. Ugh. I don't know that that's gonna make a difference. I found, yeah, I'm messing. Oh, looks like maybe I want to do something like this. This feels weird. Need to get like a bash programming book. No, still not found. Bash if statement. I've obviously got. Eh, well, yeah, that's another thought too. Rogue security of putting in like, should this be like that? Let's try it. Same thing, 6 not found. I know that these things are, like, spaces do make a difference in Bash. I don't know if it's something... Unexpected operator. Okay, so now... Yeah, so it didn't like that even less. Well... This is the part of the video that people come in and... I had somebody comment once that they were watching me work through something and like they were like screaming at the screen like, "No, you got to do this!" And it took me like 5 minutes to figure it out. I'm sure that is happening right now, and I can. Sorry, I'm like Googling off screen, but oh, I closed it. I could be doing this over here so you can see what I'm seeing and looking at. What on earth? If test command, you know, like I'm doing the if. Oh, wait a minute. What's this double? I've only got mine in singles. I mean, is that my problem? Maybe. Let's just... I also had somebody... It's funny when you post videos on the internet, how people like... Everybody's an expert. But I had somebody say, like, you did the absolute worst example of that ever. As like, if I've done a great wrong by posting to the internet. Move the thing around. Yeah, okay, I've got that. Rogue Security. Let's give this a try. I wonder if it's not liking the... Oh, that changed the thing on it, though. You know, I was... syntax error. Yep, okay, so it's not liking that. Well, so those double quotes are obviously not... Bash. Let's see. If statement on standard out, like I... See, it's showing the doubles as well. What's up, gamer? You happen to be a Bash script expert? We're looking for some Bash script expertise. Because I'm failing miserably at it right now. Yeah, okay, guys, I'm stuck. Yeah. Count. Everybody's got the double spaces in. Oops. Like, what the heck? Is this not found? Like, is it really just a matter of doing this? Okay, let me try that. Let me try, since I typed it, I'm trying this. Okay, yeah, it didn't work. All right, let me try that, gamer. We started with the equal, and that was like not happening. And let's put a thing there. Okay, spaces. All right, there's a little bit of delay, so if that looks wrong, tell me. Gamer, save the day. Thank you, my friend. Like, I swear we did some incantation of this, but obviously not. Okay. Oh, man, you showed up at just the right time. Got us back on track here. I was trying to say, like, sorry, I'm going to detour here for a second. I was explaining to somebody the other day, like, when you work in tech, the amount of information that you need to know and that's expected that you know is just infinitely vast. Like, I was using the comparison of like, because I had gone to the Jiffy Lube to get my oil changed. It's like if somebody brings in the car and you have to change the oil, there's only so many things that you need to know to change the oil in a car. Like, yes, certain things can go wrong, but it's like take the oil filter out, take the plug out, drain it, put new oil in, put it all back together, you're done. And then there's like our work where it's like, hey, can you create this new technology that nobody's ever seen before with a language that you just learned 3 weeks ago and like have it delivered in a month? Like the expectations in tech of like knowing things are just insane, and we Google a lot. I mean, that's real. All right, let's get rid of all this stuff. Gamer, thank you so much for getting us unstuck. Okay, so we're going to run that, and then we're going to count that. Now let's just, before I re-enable the programming spot, let's run this again. Okay. I probably should swallow, like, pipe this to null. So that it doesn't output all of that. I'll mess with that later. But anyway, now with the thing connected, we have, this is all working. FTDI program successfully, great. And now we can move on to running what I was trying to show you like 10 minutes ago, which is I don't think it will program because I think the FTDI stuff puts it in a specific state. So to simulate that, I've unplugged the hardware. So I would come to my bench. I'm trying to program like a dozen of these in a row. I'm going to plug it in, and then I'm going to run this script, and let's see what happens. Yes. Okay. Now that is actually a different argument. Port expected 1 argument. I did give it. Oh, I know why. I changed this because, yeah. I know what's going on here. Unplugging. We need to start over. If you look at the top here, my port is the first argument, and this was just, it's on my Linux machine, it's dev TTY USB 0. I don't know if it'll be the same thing on the Raspberry Pi. Presumably, they're both Linux. But if you're programming on a different device, it might be a COM port, like if you're using Windows. Not that I'm planning on doing that, but so I just plugged it in again. Let's do program device dev/TTY USB 0. Now, I shouldn't get the error, but I still don't think it's going to succeed. Yes, it does not. Okay, you can see it says no such file or directory dev TTY USB 0. And if I ls my dev, it's not found. But if I unplug this, unplugged, and then plug it back in, and then do this, you'll see I get dev TTY USB 0. So there's something about, and I guess I could look into this, about FTX prog, and it puts it in a state to where, because it's programming the actual FTDI chip, and so I guess at that point it can't enumerate. And I don't know that there's a way to reset it, and so it might literally just be that right here, I need to do something like unplug your device and plug it back in, which I hate. I would love for it to be more automated. But at this point, I don't know how to do that because of the state that FTX prog puts it in. And so just quickly, let's do well, we can do dev ftx prog help, I guess. I don't think there's anything. Dump, verbose, save, restore. Yeah, these are just all the settings. And so let's just very, very quickly. Let's do code ftx prog. It's a single C file. And let's see, how many lines of code are we looking at here? Like 1,300. So it's really not too bad to look at. So let's just come through here. And I actually made some changes. This is different than the actual official GitHub version because it didn't have a way to set the BCD charger. And so I made a change to it. I think I streamed that actually. Okay. Edump. Actually, I think if I recall, it's like at the very bottom when we first, yeah, main. Okay. Ftdi Init. I wonder if it's. Let's see what Ftdi Init does. Well, where are we? It's not in here, is it? Okay, so we must be pulling that from what? Ftdih. Oh, which is obviously coming from something I have installed because I do not have an Ftdi. Where was that Ftdih? User include. Okay. And it's including USB. Okay. So that is initialized somewhere. Okay. So I wonder if it's. I mean, at the end of the day, there's something we can do at the low level of all this to undo whatever it did to get started. Ftdi USB reset. But I wonder if there is a like an Ftdi Init or something to like reset it. Let's just check real quick. I don't want to spend too much time on this. Which, you know, libftdi, is that? Libftdi. That I'm assuming is not the just for fun though. Let's where'd the search go? Oh, right here. They moved it. In this repository. Oh, see, there is an Ftdi Init. Interesting. I don't know that that would do what we're saying. Well, let's look at the FTDI, what his FTDI init is at least. Looks like it's just. Oh no, it's doing a bunch of stuff. Oh, that's init. Yeah, that's not the same thing. Oh, FTDI USB close. And then FTDI free. None of these things are happening. So we do an FTDI init, and then it looks like he may just be relying on the fact that once the program exits, it does all its own cleanup. Interesting. Okay, well, gosh, I said we were going to be moving into Docker, but we're not. I want to make this right. So we're going to spend, yep, sorry, I know, the title's wrong. Title's wrong on the stream. We've done like no Docker. We'll do that next time. Let's see if we can get this to work. History org rep, ftxprog.c. Ugh. Oh wait, there's a make file here. Okay. RC and then out. Yeah, I want to. So let's see. Hold on. Let's just. That's settings.json. Okay, that's fine. And I believe if I do like a git log. Yeah, me. Yeah, right there. Add support for BCD flag. So I was the last. Okay, great. So we're all version controlled and everything. We can do this without being scared. Yeah, okay. Okay, so what we're going to do is try and make this thing work. I'm going to pull this window over here so that I can reference it while writing code. So what are we inside of here? If no changes from existing EEPROM, else. So beyond all of that, like right here, I think is where we should try to do FTDI, USB. Oh, look at that. It's even finding it. USB close. And then we need to pass it an FTDI instance, which looks to be should be up here. This FTDI, which is what? Where's this defined? Take me to it at the top of the field, FTDI context. Okay, so great. So I wonder if it's just as simple as FTDI USB close. And then we just pass it FTDI. Like that. Uh-oh. Is incompatible with point. Okay, so it wants it to be like that. And then we can even free to be like really tidy. Cool. We run make. And then that gives us a brand new FTX prog. Let's just make sure that that's true. Yep, September 21st at 8:33. Oh, work time's coming. All right. Now let's switch to here. What's not saved about any of this? Oh. Let's see if that worked. Ugh. All right, I'm gonna unplug the device to simulate like the real workflow. I'm gonna come and plug it in and then run this and see what happens. Free invalid pointer. Okay, well that's a good sign actually. So this is spent. Let's just get rid of the free. Let's make it again. And then let's try to run it again. Unplugging. Segmentation fault. Okay, so it's not going to be that easy, is clearly what we're learning here. I wonder if it's a matter of, because we call FTDI USB reset right here, and that's only if we say yes, which we don't on the dump. So I wonder if it's just a matter of no changes, store path, dumping existing. So this is where we open it. First read the original. Save old contents to a file if requested, which is not. Restore, it's not. Decode, yep. And then process args. This is where we're going to do the dump. Build the new one, which we shouldn't be doing in the case of a dump. If different from the original, write it back to the device. No change, which I think is what we should see. No change from existing. No change from existing EEPROM contents on the dump. And then else. Oh, so it shouldn't be running FTDI USB reset. So FTDI USB close is obviously not what we want to run. I would need to find the documentation on lib USB, or sorry, lib FTDI. So again, to not spend too much time on this, I'm just checking FTDI USB. Yeah. To not spend too much time on it, I think I'll probably just do the unplug it and plug it back in. I hate that, but again, time is everything. Like, and I don't have time to solve everything perfectly. Sometimes it's just got to be good enough. I wonder if just calling reset right here. Try running USB close in the if block. Up here, Rogue Security? In this block right here? I have to wait for the delay. USB reset. Okay. Yeah, I had a similar thought. Yeah, okay. I think what you're saying is that. Okay. So we'll do that. And then let's try to run it again. I'm gonna unplug it, plug it back in, so it's in a good state. Okay, back to the original, like, can't open the port because it's not available. Last thing I'm gonna try, and then I need to get going to work. Ugh. Let's try let's see what all the things are here since it's IntelliSense. So I've got close and I've got reset. Yeah, so it feels like close is the right thing to call. And it just wants the struct. Let's just try this. And then we'll call it. Unplugging. Like I have to show it to you every time. Like like it's a magic trick. Segmentation fault. Okay, so there's a solution to this problem. I feel like and again, I can just in the script here say unplug it and plug it back in. I don't like that, and it creates slowness, but if I have to, I will. If I get a few minutes at work today of downtime, or if I'm on a boring meeting, I will see if I can find the actual documentation for libftdi and maybe figure out what call. There's a call. Like there is some sequence of calls that we can make to have this thing disconnect and reset into a spot where it's just as if you had plugged it in the first time. It may even need to be something in like libusb, but I'll see if I can figure it out. I won't spend any more than today on it because we do have a workaround, which is we could just prompt whoever's doing this to unplug it and plug it back in. So, all right, I think we're going to call it for today. Yep, 54 minutes. I like to keep it under an hour. So I apologize. The name of the stream is completely not what we ended up doing at all, but hopefully you found some of this useful, and shout out to Rogue Security for joining and sitting through this with me. Great having you. And then I'm pretty sure he's gone, but Gamer came in and saved our bacon with the bash script stuff. So shout out to him or her. I guess it could be a her as well. Thanks for watching, everybody. I hope you have an amazing rest of your day, and we'll see you next time.